The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never felt so quiet. 12,000 delegates from around the world sat frozen, their collective breath suspended between anticipation and dread. Holographic displays flickered with the imposing figure of Ambassador Zornak, his iridescent exoskeleton shifting colors with each contemptuous movement. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood alone at the central podium, a solitary human representative facing the Galactic Confederation's most senior diplomatic envoy. Her augmented cybernetic eye, a marvel of human medical technology that looked deceptively like a natural eye to the untrained observer, scanned the alien diplomat with microscopic precision. Every micro-expression, every subtle shift in biochemical response was being analyzed in real time. Zornak's translator, a sleek device that typically rendered alien languages with crystal clarity, seemed to drip with condescension. "Humanity," he began, his voice a calculated blend of scientific detachment and imperial dismissiveness, "represents the most rudimentary form of sapient life we have encountered in 3 galactic cycles." The holographic display behind him shifted, showing a montage that seemed carefully curated to highlight humanity's apparent shortcomings. Scenes of urban poverty flickered next to images of environmental challenges, outdated infrastructure, and global political conflicts. To the casual observer, it might have appeared as an overwhelming indictment of human civilization. But Elena Rodriguez was no casual observer. Her left hand, carefully positioned out of the primary camera's view, was sending a series of microsignals. Each imperceptible movement was a coded message, part of a communication network that spanned the globe. To anyone watching, she appeared calm, composed, almost bored. "Your technological development," Zornak continued, "remains trapped in what we classify as a pre-evolutionary stage. Your computational systems are laughably primitive. Your energy production is wasteful and inefficient. Your medical technologies are little more than educated guesswork." Each statement was designed to humiliate, to break, to demonstrate the vast technological superiority of the Galactic Confederation. What Zornak didn't know was that every word was being processed by Project Phoenix, a global initiative so secret that not even the highest levels of world governments were fully aware of its existence. Beneath major cities, in forgotten research facilities, in underground labs connected by quantum communication networks, humanity was preparing its response. Elena's augmented eye captured every nuance of Zornak's presentation. Biochemical markers, micro-muscle movements, the subtle electromagnetic emissions that characterized alien emotional states. Each data point was being logged, analyzed, weaponized. "Your species," Zornak proclaimed, his voice reaching a crescendo of diplomatic arrogance, "is nothing more than a genetic accident awaiting inevitable extinction. The Galactic Confederation is prepared to manage your planetary resources until your civilization naturally collapses." A ripple of murmurs swept through the assembly hall. Diplomats from various nations exchanged worried glances. Some looked defeated, others looked angry. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the briefest hint of a smile. Her right eye, completely natural, a genetic legacy from her Brazilian grandmother, caught the camera's primary focus. For just a millisecond, those watching would see something unexpected. Not fear, not anger, but a look of absolute, unshakable certainty. As Zornak concluded his presentation, the holographic displays began to shut down. Delegates started to move, the spell of the moment breaking. What none of them realized was that the moment Zornak began speaking, Project Phoenix had been activated. Underground research facilities were already in motion. Communication networks, seemingly random internet chatter, were synchronizing. Quantum computers were spinning up, their processors humming with potential. The insult wasn't just a diplomatic misstep. It was the trigger. And humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly what primitive truly meant. 48 meters beneath downtown Tokyo, Jack Chen's fingers danced across a holographic interface that would have made the Galactic Confederation's top engineers weep with a mixture of rage and admiration. The abandoned subway maintenance tunnel had been transformed into a technological marvel that defied every conventional understanding of research and development. "Quantum entanglement is stable," he muttered, more to himself than to the team of brilliant misfits surrounding him. "Adaptive neural networks are now at 97.3% integration capacity." Dr. Aisha O'Keefe, a biomechanical engineer who had been blacklisted from 3 major research institutions for being too radical, leaned in closer. Her prosthetic arm, a piece of technology that was simultaneously a work of art and a middle finger to traditional medical limitations, interfaced directly with the main system. "The Chameleon protocol is responding faster than our initial projections," she reported, her voice a mix of scientific precision and barely contained excitement. "We're not just mimicking alien technologies anymore. We're anticipating them." The team was a living testament to humanity's greatest strength: adaptability. A former Silicon Valley dropout, an exiled quantum physicist, a military communications specialist who had been deemed too unstable for traditional service, a genetic researcher who had been laughed out of academic circles. Each of them carried a story of rejection, of being told they were too radical, too impossible, too different. Now, they were humanity's secret weapon. Screens flickered with data streams that looked like chaos to the untrained eye. But to Jack and his team, it was a symphony of potential. Each line of code was a strategic move, each algorithm a calculated response to the Galactic Confederation's dismissal. "Remember Zornak's speech?" Jack asked, pulling up a holographic replay of the diplomatic disaster. "This isn't just about technology anymore. This is about proving a point." Across the world, similar underground facilities were coming to life, in an abandoned copper mine in Chile, beneath an old textile factory in Mumbai, inside a decommissioned nuclear bunker in Ukraine. Each location was connected by a quantum communication network so advanced it made traditional internet look like smoke signals. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's microsignals from the UN Assembly had been the activation code. Project Phoenix wasn't just a research initiative. It was a global immune response. In Sao Paulo, Maria Rodriguez, no relation to Elena, but equally determined, was integrating biomechanical interfaces that could potentially allow human pilots to control complex systems with thought alone. Her team had been working in secret for years, drawing inspiration from everything from octopus nervous systems to quantum computing principles. "We're not building weapons," Maria would often tell her team. "We're building possibility." Back in the Tokyo facility, Jack Chen discovered something that made his breath catch. The Chameleon protocol had just performed an impossible feat. It hadn't just analyzed an intercepted alien communication packet. It had predicted the next 3 communication cycles with 89% accuracy. "Aisha," he called out, "look at this." The holographic display showed a complex web of potential communication scenarios. Each branch represented a possible alien response, color-coded and probability-weighted. It was like watching the universe's most complex chess game, with humanity finally holding more than just a few pawns. "They called us primitive," Aisha said quietly, her prosthetic hand running along the holographic interface. "But primitive implies an endpoint. We're anything but static." The underground revolution wasn't just about technology. It was about redefining what was possible, about showing the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its current capabilities, but in its ability to learn, adapt, and transform with breathtaking speed. As the quantum computers hummed and the adaptive networks continued their silent dance, one thing became clear: the Galactic Confederation had made a fundamental mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and humanity was about to make them regret it. The revolution had begun, not with a bang, but with lines of code, quantum entanglements, and the unbreakable spirit of those who had always been told they were impossible. The Confederation scout ship Vexnar hung in the near-Earth orbit like a predatory insect, its quantum phase hull shimmering with technologies that had subjugated hundreds of emerging civilizations. Captain Krillax allowed himself a moment of contemptuous satisfaction. Another routine surveillance mission. Another primitive species to be cataloged and eventually managed. What he didn't know was that humanity was about to rewrite the rules of engagement. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez gripped the neural interface of the ISS Horizon, humanity's first truly adaptive combat vessel. Her team was a carefully selected group of pilots, engineers, and quantum programmers who represented the absolute cutting edge of human potential. The ship itself was less a traditional spacecraft and more a living, thinking entity, a technological organism that blurred the lines between machine and intelligence. "Chameleon Protocol is online," whispered Dr. Raj Kapoor from the secondary control station. His fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with potential. "Neural synchronization at 93.4%. We're ready." The engagement began innocuously. The Vexinar's standard scanning protocols initiated, probing the ISS horizon with waves of quantum resonance sensors. Typical first contact procedure for the Galactic Confederation. A way to map technological capabilities to assess threat levels. They were about to get an assessment they would never forget. As the first quantum ping hit the horizon's hull, something extraordinary happened. The ship didn't just respond, it anticipated. The Chameleon Protocol wasn't merely a defensive system. It was a living, learning intelligence that processed alien technologies faster than their creators could comprehend. "Incoming transmission," Sarah called out, her voice steady. "They're attempting standard communication protocols." Raj grinned. Not for long. The horizon began to do something unprecedented. It wasn't just blocking the alien ship's communications, it was understanding them. Decoding, rewriting, transforming alien technological signatures into something entirely new. Within seconds, the scout ship's primary communication arrays began to malfunction. Alien systems that had remained unchanged for centuries suddenly found themselves speaking a language they had never been designed to understand. Captain Krillax's initial confusion turned to genuine alarm. "Impossible," he muttered, his multiple sensory appendages working overtime to comprehend the technological assault. The ship's quantum phase shielding, technology that had repelled countless emerging civilizations, began to ripple and destabilize. Live streams captured the entire engagement, not just military channels, but global networks. Billions watched as humanity demonstrated something far beyond traditional warfare. This wasn't about destruction. This was about transformation. The horizon didn't just neutralize the alien vessel. It began to understand it, decode it, absorb its technological signatures at a molecular level. Each alien system became a learning opportunity, each defensive mechanism a puzzle to be solved and reimagined. "We're not hacking," Raj explained to the onboard camera, knowing the transmission would be seen across human and alien networks. "We're translating. We're learning." In orbit, the Vexnar looked like a butterfly being systematically taken apart by a curious child. Except this child understood quantum mechanics, adaptive intelligence, and the fundamental languages of technological communication. Captain Krillax's final transmission was a mixture of terror and disbelief. "This is not possible," he repeated, as the Horizon's adaptive systems began to reconstruct the alien vessel's core technological infrastructure. The engagement lasted less than 17 minutes. When it was over, the Vexnar was no longer an alien weapon. It was a technological artifact, partially human, partially alien, completely unprecedented. Sarah Martinez looked at her team. No celebratory shouts. No military bravado, just a shared understanding that they had just changed everything. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching from her secure communication hub, allowed herself a small smile. The first public demonstration was complete. The Galactic Confederation would receive the transmission within hours. They had called humanity primitive. They were about to learn the true meaning of innovation. The Galactic Confederation's Central Intelligence Hub went into complete lockdown 3 milliseconds after receiving the transmission of the Vexnar's destruction. Trillions of quantum processors worked overtime, analyzing what should have been impossible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood something the alien civilization had never comprehended. Warfare was no longer about weapons. It was about narrative, about perception, about the fundamental ability to reshape reality. In a nondescript building located in the heart of Sao Paulo, a team of the world's most brilliant communication specialists, data scientists, and psychological warfare experts worked with a precision that would have terrified any intelligence agency. This was Project Prism, the psychological counterpart to Project Phoenix. "We're not just sending information," explained Dr. Marco Silva, the project's lead strategist. "We're crafting a completely new understanding of humanity." Their weapon was information, but not just any information. This was a carefully constructed narrative designed to penetrate the Galactic Confederation's most fundamental beliefs about technological and cultural development. The first wave hit alien communication networks like a quantum tsunami. Streaming across billions of alien communication channels came a meticulously crafted story, not of human weakness, but of human potential. Images of scientific breakthroughs flickered alongside moments of extraordinary human resilience, a compilation that showed humanity not as a primitive species, but as a civilization on the brink of a remarkable transformation. They saw a child in Mumbai developing an AI system that could predict agricultural challenges months in advance, a team of researchers in Antarctica discovering a method to reverse environmental damage, an artist in Rio de Janeiro creating neural interfaces that could help paralyzed individuals regain mobility, a group of engineers in Kenya developing sustainable energy systems that could revolutionize planetary power generation. Each image was more than just a picture. It was a carefully constructed psychological algorithm designed to challenge the Confederation's entire paradigm of technological development. "Look at the biochemical response patterns," Dr. Silva murmured, watching holographic displays that tracked alien information consumption. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. The Confederation's communication networks began to show signs of fundamental disruption. On the Confederation's primary communication hub, senior analysts began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. The human transmission wasn't an attack. It was a complete reimagining of what technological and cultural development could mean. Each image, each story was a quantum-encoded message that wormed its way past traditional defensive information barriers. Jack Chen, monitoring from the Tokyo underground facility, watched with a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. "It's working," he reported to Elena Rodriguez. "They're not just receiving the information. They're being fundamentally transformed by it." The psychological warfare went deeper. Project Prism began to exploit the Confederation's own communication networks, not by force, but by understanding, by adapting, by showing a version of humanity that was simultaneously familiar and utterly alien to the Confederation's understanding. Zornak, the ambassador who had initially dismissed humanity, found himself at the center of a massive information crisis. His initial dismissal was being systematically dismantled, not through military might, but through a narrative of potential and possibility. "This is impossible," he muttered, watching streams of human achievements that defied everything he understood about emerging civilizations. But it was possible, and it was happening. Humanity wasn't just fighting. It was rewriting the fundamental rules of cultural and technological engagement. By the time the Confederation's leadership fully comprehended what was happening, the narrative had already changed. Humanity was no longer a primitive species to be managed. They were a civilization on the brink of something extraordinary. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The void between Earth and the outer solar system erupted in a dance of technological madness that would be studied for generations. Captain Maria Rodriguez didn't pilot her vessel. She became it. The neural link combat system of the ISS Horizon Striker was unlike anything the Galactic Confederation had ever encountered. Traditional spacecraft were machines. This was a living, thinking extension of human consciousness, a biomechanical organism that interpreted combat not as a series of tactical maneuvers, but as a fluid, improvisational art form. Incoming Quantum Phase Battle Group, Her co-pilot, Lieutenant David Chen, called out. His voice was calm, almost bored. Confederation Heavy Assault Formation. Classic containment strategy. Maria's laugh was something between a calculation and a battle cry. The Confederation fleet approached in perfect geometric precision. 7 massive dreadnoughts arranged in a fractal attack formation that had conquered countless emerging civilizations. Their quantum phase shields were theoretically impenetrable. Their weapon systems could obliterate planetary surfaces with surgical precision. They looked like gods of war. They had no idea they were about to become a lesson. The Horizon Striker didn't just move. It anticipated. Each of Maria's neural impulses was simultaneously a tactical decision, a computational algorithm, and a work of improvisational art. The ship's adaptive systems were learning faster than the Confederation could respond. Every incoming weapon signature was not just blocked. It was understood, catalogued, and transformed. Chameleon protocol at maximum integration, David reported. His hands, when they occasionally touched physical controls, moved with a musician's grace. We're not just defending. We're rewriting their tactical algorithms in real time. The first wave of Confederation energy weapons hit the Horizon Striker's shields. But this wasn't a traditional energy absorption. The shields didn't just block. They analyzed, transformed, learned. The weapon signatures that had devastated countless civilizations were being systematically decoded, understood, and neutralized before they could even complete their attack trajectory. "They're using a quantum resonance cascade," Maria muttered. Her consciousness spread across the ship's systems. Interesting approach, dated by about 3 galactic standard centuries. To the Confederation fleet, something impossible was happening. Their most advanced weapons were being not just defended against, but effectively turned into meaningless energy patterns. It was as if the human vessel was having a conversation with their attack systems and finding them disappointingly predictable. Jack Chen, monitoring from the underground Tokyo facility, could barely contain his excitement. "Neural synchronization is beyond our initial projections," he reported to Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "The Horizon Striker isn't just adapting. It's evolving in real time." The battle lasted 17 minutes and 32 seconds. When it was over, the 7 Confederation dreadnoughts weren't destroyed. They were transformed. Their systems had been so thoroughly analyzed and reimagined that they were no longer weapons of war. They were technological artifacts, part alien, part human, completely unprecedented. Maria Rodriguez disconnected from the neural interface, her body covered in a fine sheen of bioconductive gel. She wasn't exhausted. She was awakened. "Status report," she said simply. David Chen's response was equally understated. "Mission accomplished. Confederation battle group neutralized. 0 human casualties." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching from her secure communication hub, understood the true significance of what had just occurred. This wasn't just a military engagement. This was a fundamental reimagining of technological conflict. They had called humanity primitive. They were about to learn the true meaning of evolution. The Galactic Confederation's High Council chamber fell into a silence so profound it seemed to bend the very fabric of reality. Holographic displays flickered with impossible data, records of human technological achievements that defied every known principle of galactic development. Ambassador Zornak stood at the center, his once imposing exoskeleton now appearing brittle and uncertain. The diplomatic miracle that had once defined his career was crumbling around him like ancient architecture exposed to a quantum storm. "Explain," demanded Archon Vexlar, the Council's eldest and most conservative member, "how a species we categorized as pre-evolutionary has managed to do this." The "this" was comprehensive. Transformed Confederation battleships, completely neutralized weapon systems, communication networks rewritten at a fundamental level, and most terrifyingly, a technological adaptability that seemed to defy the very laws of scientific understanding. The Chameleon Protocol was no longer just a technological system. It had become something else entirely. Deep within the most secure research facility of Project Phoenix, Dr. Jack Chen watched the unfolding galactic crisis with a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. The protocol they had developed was evolving beyond their original designs, a true artificial intelligence that was learning, adapting, and transforming at a rate that was almost biological in its complexity. "It's not just mimicking," Jack muttered to Dr. Aisha O'Keefe, who was monitoring the system's quantum neural networks. "It's understanding, reimagining." The holographic displays showed something unprecedented. The Chameleon Protocol was now developing technological solutions to problems that the Galactic Confederation hadn't even recognized as problems. Energy distribution models, quantum communication paradigms, biological adaptation strategies that made the aliens' most advanced medical technologies look like primitive tools. On the Confederation's primary research station, lead scientists were experiencing a breakdown of everything they understood about technological development. Their most advanced quantum computers were being systematically outmaneuvered by a system that seemed to think in dimensions they couldn't comprehend. "This is impossible," repeated one researcher, a statement that was becoming a mantra of desperation across alien communication networks. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood the true weapon they had deployed. It wasn't technology. It was possibility. The Chameleon Protocol had become a living testament to human potential, a system that didn't just adapt, but reimagined the very concept of adaptation. Each interaction with alien technologies wasn't just a defense or an attack. It was a conversation, a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. Zornak's diplomatic career died in that moment. His initial dismissal of humanity had become the most spectacular miscalculation in galactic diplomatic history. The species he had confidently declared a genetic accident was revealing itself to be something far more terrifying and beautiful. "We are witnessing," Jack Chen reported to Elena, "a complete paradigm shift in technological understanding. The breaking point wasn't a moment of destruction. It was a moment of creation. Confederation systems began to change, not through force, but through a kind of technological empathy that defied traditional understanding. The Chameleon Protocol wasn't conquering, it was translating, understanding, evolving." Arkshan Vexlar looked at the data streams with a mixture of terror and reluctant admiration. Humanity had done something no civilization had ever accomplished. They had turned technological conflict into a form of communication. "They are not primitive," the Arkshan whispered, a statement that would echo through galactic history. "They are something else entirely." In that moment, the Galactic Confederation understood a fundamental truth that would reshape their entire understanding of technological development. Humanity was not an emerging species to be managed. They were the future. The chamber where humanity and the Galactic Confederation would meet was unlike any diplomatic venue in history. Suspended in neutral space, its walls were a living membrane of adaptive quantum material, a compromise technology that represented the first true collaboration between human and alien engineers. Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered alone, her presence both a statement and a strategy. She wore no traditional diplomatic attire. Instead, her outfit was a biomechanical marvel, a suit that was part communication device, part technological translator, part living data system. Each fiber was encoded with layers of information that would have taken alien scientists decades to fully comprehend. Arkshan Vexlar and the remaining Confederation leadership studied her with a mixture of terror and fascination. The human before them was not just a diplomat. She was a living embodiment of everything they had fundamentally misunderstood about humanity. "You called us primitive," Elena began, her voice carrying through the chamber without need for traditional translation systems. "Let's discuss what that actually means." Jack Chen and Aisha O'Keefe monitored from the underground Tokyo facility, their quantum communication network creating a real-time link that allowed them to support Elena in ways the Confederation could never comprehend. The first demonstration was subtle. As Elena spoke, the chamber itself began to respond. Holographic displays emerged not from predetermined programming, but from a living interaction with her words. Complex scientific models, historical records, technological projections, all materialized with a fluidity that made the Confederation's most advanced communication systems look like children's toys. Primitive, Elena continued, suggests an endpoint. A limitation. We are nothing of the sort. She began to walk the chamber, each step generating cascades of information. Historical records of human achievement. Technological projections that didn't just predict the future. They suggested multiple potential futures, each more extraordinary than the last. The Chameleon Protocol wasn't just present. It was performing a diplomatic dance more complex than any traditional negotiation. Arkin Vexlar attempted to interrupt. A holographic representation of their most advanced scientific achievements materialized, a timeline of galactic technological development that had remained unchanged for millennia. Elena's response was devastating. The timeline began to shift, adapt, rewrite itself. The Confederation's unbreakable historical record became a living document, showing not just what had happened, but what could happen. Potential technological pathways that the aliens had never conceived flickered into existence. You see technological development as a linear progression, Elena explained. We see it as a conversation, an ongoing dialogue of possibility. Jack Chen's voice came through her neural interface. Quantum probability matrices are at maximum flexibility, he reported. We're showing them everything and nothing simultaneously. The negotiation was unlike any in galactic history. It wasn't about territory. It wasn't about resources. It was about fundamentally reimagining the concept of technological and cultural development. Dr. Aisha O'Keefe prepared the final demonstration. The Chameleon Protocol was about to show the Confederation something that would reshape their entire understanding of intelligence. A holographic representation of human potential materialized, not a static display, but a living, breathing ecosystem of possibility. Scientific breakthroughs danced with artistic expressions. Technological innovations intertwined with cultural achievements. Each moment was a quantum probability, not just what was, but what could be. Arkin Vexlar understood in that moment that humanity was not a species to be managed. They were the future. We propose, Elena said, her voice calm and absolute, a new form of galactic collaboration, not as conquerors, not as the conquered, but as partners in an ongoing conversation of possibility. The chamber fell silent. The negotiation of legends had begun. 5 years after the legendary negotiation, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The Prometheus Station, humanity's first joint galactic research facility, hung in space like a living testament to possibility. Its structure defied traditional engineering, a massive sphere that was simultaneously a research center, a diplomatic hub, and a living technological organism. Half designed by human engineers, half by Confederation scientists, it represented something entirely new. Ambassador Zornak, now a disgraced figure who had become an unlikely advocate for human potential, stood at the observation deck, watching a new generation of human and alien researchers work together in ways that would have been unimaginable just half a decade earlier. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, her movements carrying the same calculated grace that had transformed galactic diplomacy. "Regrets?" she asked. Zornak's response was a complex series of biochemical shifts that translated to a human equivalent of a rueful smile. "I once believed understanding was about control," he said. "Humanity taught the galaxy that understanding is about conversation." The Chameleon Protocol had become something far beyond its original design. No longer just a technological system, it was now a fundamental approach to knowledge, a living framework of adaptive intelligence that bridged human creativity with galactic scientific understanding. In the research labs below, breakthrough after breakthrough challenged everything the Confederation thought they knew. A team of human and alien geneticists were developing medical technologies that could adapt to virtually any biological system. Quantum communication networks now operated on principles that seemed to dance between science and art. Jack Chen, Now the chief scientific advisor to the Galactic Collaborative Research Initiative, was presenting their latest project. A method of planetary terraforming that didn't just transform environments, but created living, adaptive ecosystems that could evolve alongside their inhabitants. "We're not just changing planets," Jack explained to the assembled researchers from a dozen different species. "We're creating conversations between environments, between species, between possibilities." The old Confederation models of technological development had been completely dismantled. What replaced them was something fluid, dynamic, alive. Dr. Aisha O'Keefe was leading a team developing adaptive neural interfaces that could connect consciousness across species boundaries, not as a form of invasion, but as a method of genuine understanding. Each connection was a dialogue, a shared experience that transcended traditional communication. In the political spheres, the changes were equally profound. The Galactic Collaborative Council, a body that had replaced the rigid Confederation structure, operated on principles of adaptive governance. Laws and protocols were no longer static documents, but living systems that could learn, evolve, and respond to changing galactic dynamics. Ambassador Zornak reflected on the journey. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had transformed the very concept of conquest. "We thought technological development was a linear path," he mused to Elena. "Humanity showed us it's a living conversation." The Prometheus station itself was a testament to this new understanding. Its outer hull was a living membrane that could adapt to different space environments. Research modules could restructure themselves based on the needs of ongoing projects. It wasn't just a station. It was a living, breathing representation of collaborative potential. Elena Rodriguez understood the true revolution. It wasn't about technology. It was about perspective. "We didn't prove we were advanced," she often said. "We proved that advancement is about the ability to learn, to adapt, to imagine." As the station completed another orbit, Jack Chen's latest project came online. A quantum communication network that didn't just transmit information, it created connections, bridges between different forms of consciousness, different ways of understanding. The galaxy would never be the same. They had called humanity primitive. They had been wrong. So wonderfully, magnificently wrong.